Hey, what's going on, guys? Episode 8 of the 808s and Bars podcast. Very happy that I remembered the name of the podcast this time. We are re-recording this episode because we had a little bit of some internet difficulties last time. There was a big rainstorm down here and I lost internet halfway through. But this is something that we've been wanting to do for a while now that there's a little bit of a break in album releases. Jason and I are going to sit down and talk about our favorite Kendrick Lamar albums. We're going to rank the 5 Kendrick Lamar projects that have dropped and are technically Kendrick Lamar albums. Might be considered mixtapes, but we consider them pretty much albums. So we're going to go Overly Dedicated, which was his first project that he dropped, first major project he dropped in 2010, all the way up to last year's Damn. We're not including the Black Panther album or Untitled Unmastered because they're not technically really. Black Panther isn't a Kendrick album, and Untitled Unmastered is more of a compilation, so we don't really think it's fair to stack it up against the other ones. Although Jason and I have both said we do like that Untitled Unmastered. I actually like both of them quite a bit.
Yeah, I like Untitled Unmastered. It's really good. The Black Panther album, I was disappointed that most of the songs weren't in the actual movie, but I did like the soundtrack album.
Yeah, it was good, and it's not all Kendrick, so it's and even Kendrick's kind of hit or miss on it. I don't know about you, but anytime that Kendrick and The Weeknd make a song together, I hate it.
I don't like it either. I don't think they match up well together.
Kendrick. No, I think it's. I thought the one on and it literally just sounds like a song that was probably
like it's like one of those matchups that like the label told them to do.
Yeah, it's so forced. It's like they clearly have no chemistry together. They're pretty much just two superstars.
They're not even going for the same thing like in their music at all. It's not even a partnership that makes any sense remotely.
Yeah, there really is no blend between the two. But overall, we're going to discuss the albums. We're going to talk about our favorite songs, our least favorite song, and we're going to rank them from 5 to 1, starting with the number 5 project, which Jason and I discussed on the last one, and we both agreed on, which was Overly Dedicated in 2010. Now, this was a project that dropped before Kendrick was Kendrick, so it kind of served as an introduction to him, I guess you could say, right, Jason? I would say it's kind of like introducing the world to him.
Yeah, I would say that. I think The Heart Part 2 might be the first song I've ever heard that Kendrick Lamar made. It might be that might be the first song I ever heard by Kendrick. Yeah,
the first song that I ever heard by Kendrick was "Ignorance Is Bliss."
Okay,
and it was because, which is funny enough, it is my favorite song on that album. But the reason that I heard it was because I was reading an article in XXL, and Dr. Dre heard that song, and that's what got him turned on to Kendrick.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, me being a Kendrick stan, I know like a bunch of ridiculous shit that like I probably shouldn't use, space in my brain for. But he heard that song and like pretty much kind of got what we got out of this album. Funny enough, he heard the potential in Kendrick, right? Like this album is not 100% fully fleshed out, really good songwriting. It's kind of him dabbling in a little bit of everything. He's got some really weird songs on here, like Alien Girl.
There's a making of a rap superstar here. It's not there quite yet, though.
Yeah, you said last time we recorded, it's like he's planting the seeds, essentially.
Right, essentially, right. He is, he's the gardener right now, and he's going to bloom at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it was only his second project under the name Kendrick Lamar. He had the Kendrick Lamar EP, which came out the year before that. Overly Dedicated comes out that year. Arguably,
I don't know if you remember this also. He also had like a Lil Wayne tribute mixtape.
Yeah, the Carter, what did he call it? I forget, the C4 mixtape. That was it.
C4, yeah. That's what he called it, yeah.
Which had some of his worst songs that he's ever made. He had Bitch I'm in the Club was on that, which is inarguably his worst song. He even says it is. The chorus is bitch, I'm in the club, tell me what's good. I'm trying to get these hoes single, and this is my single. So
this should tell people, by the way, that at some point Lil Wayne was not only probably the best rapper alive, or one of them, but he was the most fun, and he was definitely the most people wanted to be like him. You know, he was the most relatable.
Yeah, and he even
like
Kendrick to this day even says that he's the most influential rapper of his lifetime.
Wayne is probably the most influential rapper we've heard in the past, maybe I want to say 15 years.
I mean, and every major rapper now pretty much admits that.
Yeah, and every major a lot of major rappers now pretty much sound like Wayne. They owe a lot of their stuff to Wayne. So,
yeah, and you can hear a little. I think that the reason why Kendrick got some early career Wayne comparisons was because Wayne was the only one with a different voice that was going for different sounds. Like Kendrick starts to do kind of.
Wayne had that alien vibe, and Kendrick kind of has developed that as well. But Wayne really started that whole alien, like out of space type of like atmosphere that he's going for in his music, and and Kendrick has kind of perfected it. And
finally, and funny enough, Alien Girl on this album is one of Kendrick's weirdest songs. That's a song that both of us didn't really vibe with. I think conceptually Kendrick was a little bit raw here. He wasn't really making as tight of songs on this album as he does on his later ones. He's kind of talking about topics that have been talked about in hip hop forever. But he didn't bring this unique perspective at this point outside of a few songs on here. I mean, Heart Part 2, like we've both talked about it, like starting an album with a 5-minute, essentially just stream of consciousness freestyle over an old school roots beat. And getting to the point where also one of my favorite parts, are you aware of the sample at the beginning of that, the Dash Snow sample on there?
I am somewhat aware of it.
So Dash Snow was
from an interview. That's from an interview, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. He was an artist. I believe
the New York artist. Yeah.
He was an artist who killed himself, and in that he talks about how he has these suicidal thoughts and how music essentially has kept him on Earth. And made it so that he doesn't kill himself, which is a very interesting way to start, your first major project, to kind of just like throw out there, like, I've thought about killing myself before. And by the way, music's the only thing that keeps me here. And then for 5 minutes, just to essentially go on this stream of consciousness, a running out of breath freestyle, going insanely hard, showing off his technical rapping ability, his lyrical ability. There are moments on here where I totally agree with what you're saying, where it's like, here we're starting to see who Kendrick Lamar can become. He's not really there yet, though. There's a lot of missteps on this album.
There's a lot of missteps. There's a lot of like clumsiness and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I re-listened to it after we had the failed pod, and I was like, oh, I get it. I get why people do like it. This is just not crisp enough, in my opinion, for a guy for the Kendrick Lamar that we know now. This isn't overly dedicated, and we'll get to Section 82, but overly dedicated especially isn't exactly crisp enough for me to even like revisit nowadays on like a regular basis.
And I think that the difference between Section 80 and Overly Dedicated to me is that Overly Dedicated has a lot of it's a kind of more of a basic rap album to me. At least with Section 80, even if you don't like it, I think you have to respect the ambition for an artist to, with his true debut album, to go and come up with essentially this. Some people would consider it to be, underground classic. He's rapping over these very different instrumentals than a lot of people were rapping at the time. Very jazzy, very free form style songs on there. He's showing off his technical rapping ability, whereas Overly Dedicated, it's more of, Average Joe is like an old kind of West Coast sounding song. P&P has that Houston chop screwed sound to it. Ignorance is Bliss is really unique. Like I said, that's my favorite song on the album. Like conceptually, like Michael Jordan, like another Lil Wayne reference on there, actually, on the chorus there. Opposites Attract. Like there's just not a lot that's like HOC, another one that's like high off contact, like, and he basically talks about how he doesn't smoke weed, and that's the whole song. It's just a young rap album. Like,
right. It's a young rap album. Yeah, that's a that's a perfect way to say it. It's a youngin' rap album. You know what I mean? He's not exactly mature yet. So
exactly. I think he was 20 when he recorded this, and the difference between him when he was recording Section 80 and Good Kid, Mad City is, you know, he's kind of starting to see the world in a different way. He's really digging into these things that he even touches on Barbed Wire, which is one of my favorite songs on this album too, where he talks about like essentially growing up poor and black in America and how getting through to the other side is like getting through barbed wire, like how difficult it can become.
If you know where he's from too, there's a Noisy, I don't know if you've seen this interview or this video, but there's a video that Noisy did where he went back to his hometown and they talked to a lot of the people who he's still close with and who he grew up with. And like there's this alleyway near Kendrick's house or whatever, and it's like this is just like a lot of his friends like died here, and a lot of his friends are still here, and blah blah blah. And it's like I think that's like the metaphor for like barbed wire. You know what I mean? He's talking about like trying to get over that fence. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. And even the cleverness of this song is, I mean, he's telling the perspective of a person who grew up in this neighborhood, getting through to the other side. And then my favorite part is the end, where he talks about how, you know, this person has overcome all of these hardships in their life. They worked incredibly hard to get through to the other side. They're finally on the other side. They're making money. They're doing well for themselves. And then, you know, when you hit the club to ball out, they're going to say, well, you joined the Illuminati. Like, that's the only way that you could ever make it as a successful black person in America, which is really the start of, and on this album is the start of him becoming more aware of these kind of, you know, societal things that hold people back, and really becoming, you know, the person that I think that he really makes a gigantic step into the next album, which is Section 80, which, Jason, I believe you had that ranked number 4.
Yes, I would have that ranked number 4. Yeah.
Now, why do you think that the jump isn't that as big as I think it is?
I think it's similar to Overly Dedicated in that I still feel a younging vibe in it. I don't always feel a mature rapper vibe in it. That could just be my like skepticism in general about like a lot of things, but I still think there's some moments on the album where he's obviously still stuck in the he's still a in his mind he's still a young person. He's still a person who's growing. You know what I mean? He's still a person who knows he doesn't have the answers, and he's looking for some also. He
literally talks about that. Yeah, you're right.
He's not in the position yet where he's telling people or he's giving us gems and stuff like that. He is still very much like us, you know what I mean? Like looking for a way out, looking for this and that. So I think I would prefer, I think my biggest thing is I prefer Superstar Kendrick or surveying
Kendrick. Yeah.
Right. Surveying the world Kendrick as opposed to like being a kid Kendrick. So I think there's a lot of stuff on Section 80, whereas he's going back to a specific type of place that I don't really vibe with necessarily. But the reason why I do like about it Overly Dedicated is that, speaking of the music, there are just more better tracks on Section 80 than there are on Overly Dedicated.
Definitely. And I think even the songwriting is much tighter. I think
the songwriting is much tighter. Yeah, the production is much tighter. The album is just tighter in general than Overly Dedicated is. I just don't think that it's demonstratively a better record. You know what I mean?
The reason I do is because I think this is where we start to see the Kendrick that became Kendrick Lamar today.
Okay.
This is where he starts to have a little bit more of his own unique voice. You still hear the influences. They're just not as, you know, he's not as tied to his influences as I guess he was on his earlier projects.
Yeah, I would say that I still see other rappers in him. I don't know if he has exactly his own sound on this one quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are absolutely some influences on here that we can hear. I mean, songs like Blow My High, obviously, still having that chopped and screwed Texas, Houston kind of vibe to it. From a technical rapping standpoint, you could even point to an Eminem. You could point to a lot of people throughout this record that I think that he was pulling from.
Yeah.
But I don't think that any song on here I would say, oh, that sounds like this person's song.
Right.
That sounds like there are definitely little things in here. Now, from a technical rapping standpoint, you could argue this is his best rapping album in terms of. What would you say? What would you say that his rapping? I'm not saying like. So I'll put it like this. What would you say is his best rapping album?
Honestly, I think his best rapping album is probably Good Kid, Mad City.
Okay, I think that I would say that I would say the only reason I think that I wouldn't argue Overly Dedicated or Damn are quite as good technically rapping is because he uses a lot of the same flows on them. Like Damn, he uses on 10 of the 14 songs, he uses the same flow, which is very un-Kendrick-like. Like on from this Section 80 to Pimp a Butterfly Run. And by the way, I have Section 80 ranked number 3 in my rankings. And I'll tell you why Kendrick stans love this album so much is because it is, one, the introduction to the Kendrick that we see today, but two, it is very much tied to everything that people like about Kendrick Lamar. He becomes more unique. His rapping ability on this, I mean, Rigor Mortis, I know, Jason, that's your favorite song, right?
That's my favorite song on this album. Yeah, that's there are 3 songs that I really, really love and still listen to. Rigor Mortis is one.
And if you want to talk about from a technical rapping standpoint,
I mean, you can't get better than that. That was and something that you brought up on the last rap performance. Yeah, it is.
Absolutely. I mean, it's essentially lyrical and flow gymnastics, and something that Jason brought up on the last pod.
And it's not word salad. You know, some of your favorite, this is to the listeners. Some of your favorite rappers, you guys are doing. Some of your favorite rappers do like word salad. They rap, but like they're really not rapping about anything. They're just like saying it in like a very skillful way, but nothing's really being said, and it's a lot of like trickery and this and that. But like that doesn't really make great music anymore. But on Rigor Mortis, Kendrick's rapping with fire, and he's rapping quickly, and he's rapping concise, and there's things that that are being said. There's charisma being exuded in this song. So I would say that's why I think that song's so impressive.
I think that the person that we brought up on the last pod that is probably the most commercially successful that does this is Logic. Is someone who
Logic does that a lot. Yeah, he'll rap. And yeah, like he can, I guess he's good lyrically, but like, what is he?
I wouldn't even say he's good lyrically. I think he's just good flow. I think the only thing that he has redeeming is that won't even say flow. I just think he can rap fast, kind of decent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like he's a corn, and he's not, to be frank, he's a cornball, and he's not really saying much. He's just rapping. It's not, there's nothing really there's nothing gripping about his music. It's just there.
And funny enough, one of my favorite songs on Section 80 is Hole Up, and Logic completely ripped that song.
I'm sure. And also, yeah, that's another
on his first album.
Everyone else, yeah. I mean, his name should be Logic Lamar or Logic Cole.
It's either Drake. It's either a Drake song or a Cole song or a Kendrick song. There's not a lot of uniqueness there. Whereas when Kendrick Lamar is coming with a song, like, I mean, I think conceptually Kendrick wasn't quite there yet on Section 80. I think that is one of the things. Like, don't get me wrong, like ADHD is one of my favorite. I think it's one of the best lyrical / musically sound crossover songs of the decade. And I think I said on our first pod when we recorded it, it is one of my favorite songs of the decade. And I think the reason it is because it does exactly what he does on the next album with Swimming Pools, where he flips the concept on its head.
Yeah,
where it's like,
yeah. There's still people who think that Swimming Pools is about going out and drinking.
Exactly. And like ADHD is all about smoking weed, popping pills, ecstasy, you know, shrooms, all this stuff, whatever you need. But at the same time,
there is a way to be anti vice or I wouldn't say anti-vice, that makes him sound like a cop, but but there is a way to be anti-drugs and alcohol and rap without being a clown about it, or without being too grandeur or honest about it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and he does a good job of it.
there are a few rappers that can really do this like super well. I think two of my favorite rappers of all time are Kendrick Lamar and Andre 3000. He's another person who can kind of flip that stuff on its head, where he makes these ironically upbeat songs that are truly about depressing topics.
Yeah.
Kendrick tends to make these kind of dark party bangers that have more of a societal awareness than all of your other dark party bangers. And another thing that he does on ADHD, which I believe is like, from, you know, when I talk about like the Kendrick that is Kendrick now, is that one of the styles that he perfected that he carries over into Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly is he does this thing where he raps really well, and he'll rap really, and he does it about halfway through the first verse on ADHD into the chorus, where he'll rap really fast and really well. And then under it, he'll do the same exact, like his backing vocals are the same exact way, but he actually raps it really monotone, and it gives, and it blends in really well with the beats to the point where you almost don't even realize that he's doing it. And that is like the uniqueness of Kendrick that I think really stands out throughout this album.
Yeah.
Like, he's approaching these like very huge sounding beats, and he's really just spitting his ass off throughout. Now, it definitely has some low points too, though. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Low points, yeah. Anyone who knows me knows that I don't want to even say like skeptic, but anyone who knows me knows that I'm I really like Kendrick, but I don't think okay. So here is like my thesis on Kendrick Lamar. I think he's a really good rapper. I don't think he makes demonstrably better music than anyone else, than any of his peers, any of his elite peers. I don't think he makes demonstrably better music than them. So whoever you want that to be. So like YG, 2 Chainz, Future, Young Thug. I don't think he makes demonstrably better music than those people, but I do think he's very good. However, what I will say is that I always know that it's Kendrick Lamar coming in, and I really appreciate that. I know what I'm getting. I know he's going to give me something where I feel like I'm not wasting my time. We'll get to Pimp a Butterfly later, and like one of the things about that is, I don't love it, but I will listen because I know that I'm getting something. I'm not getting like a joke, and I appreciate it.
And he absolutely thinks out, like, and I mean, I obviously disagree. I think Kendrick truthfully is the best rapper out now. I think he does make the best music, and the reason that I do is because I think that Kendrick has more range than almost any of those rappers. I'm not saying that I think that he's 100%. Yeah, I do think he's, and I mean, I know that this will probably make Jason cringe. I think he's one of the greatest rappers of all time, because I think that and I'm not saying that he's taken hip hop to the next level. I think Kanye definitely changed what commercial hip hop can be in the 21st century. So I think he's a little bit kind of following that path.
Yeah, he's following like Wayne and Kanye, a lot of those times, because Kanye, one of his biggest things, and we don't even mean to talk about him too much, but one of his things was that he did bring Talib Kweli and Jay-Z into the studio together. And that was kind of like him. He was Talib Kweli meets Jay-Z. That was kind of like what he was attempting to be. Or Common meets Jay-Z. You know what I mean? Like,
or Cameron meets Consequence.
Or something, right. Or something. Yeah. So it was a I want to rap about societal things, and also not that Jay-Z didn't do that, because that's, I mean, do you listen to music or do you just skim through it? But he wanted to do I want to bring societal issues and also bring it to the club.
Right. No, that is absolutely the path that Kendrick went down.
Yeah, I think he succeeded with that. I think Wayne with his mixtape succeeded with that, and I think Kendrick is now succeeding with it as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah,
I think that's a good way to put it.
I would say that I do agree that he has the chops to be one of the greatest ever. I don't think that that's always been there. I think it's there with Damn, which we'll get to. And parts of Good Kid, Mad City. I don't think it's been there all the time.
And I think it will be interesting because as a Kendrick stan, I have a different perspective. A Kendrick stan since 2011, High Power was probably what really got me to the next level with my Kendrick standum.
Something or die in the morning, High Power.
Yeah, like I really like, and that's another one of my favorite songs on this. I think that lyrically he really is just destroying on that song. His delivery is really on point. This is where this album is where you start to hear the hooks are improving a little bit. They're not all the way there yet. The beats are definitely beats that people were not willing to rap over at the time. Now I think jazz and these more experimental beats have become much more common, which I actually think has been a very good thing for hip hop. But, you know, outside of Kanye, or even like, you know, I think Watch the Throne came out like right after this.
Watch the Throne came out 2011. Yeah,
it came out a month after this, but like, I mean, they probably were recording it at the same time. There weren't as many people willing to try these different beats like Jay-Z and Kanye were. But you know, Kendrick as a rapper who, you know, is starting to like, and the reason that I think that most people do think that Kendrick is on that level and why he makes better music than anyone else is because he has the unique ability to do what a Kanye did or an Andre 3000 did that preceded him, is that he makes music that is, and I'll put it like this, he makes music that people have to then adapt to as opposed to the other way around. Like, I feel like until Kendrick's more recent stuff, he never really had to adapt to sounds that were, you know, popular. Like, I think that a lot of these sounds that you hear on Kendrick's Section 80, Good Kid, Mad City, he made them popular.
I think you think he's a seminal rapper, and I just think he's a really good rapper. I think that's where we differ. I think you might think that he is transcendent in terms of like the music he's making, and I just think he's very good at it.
And I think the reason that I do is because I think in terms of you know, the amount of you know, not, and I don't want to say effort, because I think a lot of people put a lot of effort into rap music nowadays and they don't quite get the credit, but I think that from a uniqueness standpoint, there aren't many like Kendrick. He somehow blends the technical rapping ability of you know, an Eminem with the you know, the ear for beats of, even though he doesn't make beats, the ear for beats of an Andre 3000 or a Kanye. But also I feel a form of personal connection to his music that there are some, you know, there are some Kanye songs I just like, I like them, but I don't really feel a personal connection because I feel like he's so much, at times he's very above the listener. Like he like, I am a god.
He is. Yeah, or like thinks he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but like, for example, like I don't relate to I Am a God. I think it's a great song, but like Kendrick's much more on like a human level of being able to relate to what he's talking about on here. Like, for example, like
I mean, I think Andre 3000 meets Tupac as his ethos. That's like always been is like what he, I mean, he interviewed Pac, he will kind of, he fake interviewed Tupac.
He interviewed Pac when he was 8 years old, when Tupac was still alive.
Yeah, on like on Mortal Man off of To Pimp a Butterfly, and I think that's always been his ethos. He's wanted to combine musical with the ability to you know, a gravitas and ability to relate to the listener like Tupac had. So I think that's like what he always has wanted to do since the jump.
Yeah, and speaking of that, isn't that your number 3 album, To Pimp a Butterfly?
To Pimp a Butterfly is my number 3 album. Yes.
Okay, so I have it at number.
A lot of
2.
people will just. A lot of people are going to disagree with this, but I don't think it's. I don't even think it's a hot take, to be honest. I think it's good. It doesn't have to be the greatest of all time. It doesn't even have to be the greatest of this decade. I think it's good, and I think that I like the idea, and I'll always listen to it because I get it. I get how hard he worked on it, and I understand what they're going for. I just don't think it always executes itself in the right way. Look, there's some really great tracks in here. Institutionalized. I listened to it, I guess maybe like 10 times last night. It's on the train back from, I was at a family barbecue. I rode the train back. I think I listened to Institutionalized for like a whole hour. It's really great. I mean,
it's a great song. Yeah, that's my favorite song on the album for sure.
Is that your favorite song? Yeah, I think All Right's my favorite song. I mean, he jumps on the beat of All Right and really defines basically like a whole movement and a whole type of changing in America. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All Right's incredible. I mean, he starts off that song. He goes, "When I wake up, I recognize you looking at me for the pay cut. But homicide be looking at you from the face down. When Mac 11 need him boo with the bass down, screaming. And let me tell you about my life. Painkillers only put me in the twilight." I mean, that like those like first 6 bars might be the most impressive we've heard him. Just the fury that came out of his voice. And I mean, and his flow is really great on it. And it's such a great beat by Pharrell. Pharrell killed it. Can you believe he was going to give that to Fabulous?
He did, yeah, I heard the original song, and it's It's not quite there. To put it nicely.
J. Cole also tried to rap on this beat, and it was like not even like I was like, oh, what are you doing, man? Like,
yeah, it was fine. I mean Kendrick rapped on Tale of Two Cities and destroyed it.
Yeah. He destroyed that. Yeah, and I mean Kendrick just kills on this song. He's really great on it. All Right might be his best song. If you were to tell me that, well, there are basically 5 songs.
I think it's definitely his most important.
But it also slaps, though. That's the thing. It also like really slaps. Like if you bump that, like if you bump that just like on a day, like we gonna feel all ransom, and it's hot. You know what I mean? It's not just like an important protest song. I mean, it's not Fight the Power. Well, Fight the Power slaps too, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's not like it should not be known as the police brutality song. It should be known as just a great song. It's just an incredible song. So,
and I think a lot of people have the problem with this album that they find, and I hear this a lot from people, is that it doesn't have a lot of those standalone tracks like his other ones.
Yes, they are. Yes, I agree with that. This is an album I feel like that should be played all the way through. The problem is it doesn't always sound great all the way through. So like there's like 4 tracks I think that I can stand alone. I love Hood Politics. The chorus of Hood Politics is a little clumsy. He goes, "I've been A1 since day one. You niggas boo boo." That's a little clumsy, but the verses on it are, I mean, they're tight. They're fabulous. But
the way he delivers it is funny with that high pitched voice.
That is true. It's like he does.
He's a little kid, like almost.
Yeah, he does that a lot. I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to go back to the time where he was like a teenager or something like that.
Right, because that's literally the first song I believe where he returns to Compton on the album.
Right.
And Hood Politics actually has a Sufjan Stevens sample on there, which is, and that's another thing. And I want to talk about what I was talking about before with the uniqueness, like. And it's not to say that uniqueness necessarily can make an artist. There are plenty of artists that are unique that are just not interesting. But the thing about Kendrick,
they're uniquely boring. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It goes against them. And I think that there have been times in his career where he tries something too far out there and it does hurt him. But like, I mean, you have to give credit to his producers. You know, so we love Soundwave.
I like Soundwave, man. Yeah, I don't always love the work he did on this. Like, I think King Kunta could benefit from much more instrumentation.
I believe that was Kendrick's decision to strip that down.
Yeah, he stripped it down. I actually believe that King Kunta, if it had actually, it's funny because I have a problem with some of the jazz beats because my thing is like him over rap beats are incredible. Sometimes you just want to hear someone rap over rap beats. You know what I mean? Damn is a rap album, which is I love about it. It's perfectly one of the biggest lies we say is that I think I've said this on this format before, but one of the biggest lies we say about rap music is that it has to be in order for it to be fantastic or in order for it to be a natural
transcendent
like different genres inside of it. And like that's not really true. It's perfect on its own. And rap is an artistry. It's a great genre on its own. If you were it's just a great genre when Big Pun used to rap. You know what I mean? It's not.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it doesn't have.
But it's also a very. It's weird because.
But it's also great because you can incorporate different genres in
exactly.
it. Yeah, I just don't think that.
And also, like sampling is a core of the art form.
Right.
So.
Exactly.
So like you can use sampling in a way that is, sampling of other genres in a way that doesn't, steer too far away from hip hop. But it's not to say even I mean, I know that this album is experimental. And I think that sometimes in terms of technical rapping, and it doesn't have my favorite production. I think Good Kid, Mad City, I would give a nod for my favorite production on a Kendrick album. But I really respect where he came from this album of just starting over, essentially.
Yeah, I do respect it too. Yeah.
Like where he went after Good Kid, Mad City. Honestly, I was thinking about it the other day, and I was like, if you reverse the order of Kendrick's albums, I think people think about him a lot differently. Because I think if you switched Good Kid, Mad City into Pimp a Butterfly, so you go Section 80 to Pimp a Butterfly, Good Kid, Mad City, then Damn. That's more of an arc and a progression that makes more sense to me. But I think the reason why I like To Pimp a Butterfly so much is that
he was in a different space when he made To Pimp a Butterfly than he is on Damn. So that's why, and Good Kid, Mad City. So I figured he was much more in a claustrophobic space in his head. So I feel like that it makes sense for it to have jumped like that.
Absolutely. Adjusting to fame, becoming more aware of, how fucked this country is. And
yeah, I think it was hard on him adjusting to who he is now. You know what I mean? Just based on how he grew up and stuff like that.
I think of it like this. I actually, as different as they are, I think Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly sort of act as original movie and sequel only, and kind of like Section 80 is more of like a prelude to it because it's kind of setting the stage for Good Kid, Mad City. It's explaining the neighborhood and his surroundings. Then you get his experience in it, and then To Pimp a Butterfly is like, okay, so Good Kid, Mad City is Kendrick as a kid in around violence, crime, all this stuff. And then you get To Pimp a Butterfly is the man in the world. So like readjusting for the rest of the country, readjusting for fame, readjusting for the world, and not knowing how to deal with it, and having those anxieties that he still has from Good Kid, Mad City.
I mean, we've all had that. I mean, I have a lot of anxieties just getting out in the world and stuff like that. What's going to happen if I do achieve a certain amount of success? Can I keep my past? You know what I mean? Can I keep all the stuff that made me growing up? You know what I mean? If I achieve a certain amount of success. So those are the reason why I do still listen to Pimp a Butterfly a little bit is that though I do understand the ethos of it, you know what I mean? Yeah, I just don't always love the music in it, which is fair. I mean,
I think that it starts really strong, and I think that it tends to let up towards the end for me.
See, I haven't listened to Wesley's Theory. I mean, Wesley's Theory is just, for me, it's just so choppy to me, and it's so just difficult, and it's so claustrophobic. It's very like,
it's very all over the place.
It's very all over, and it's in like a certain space. You know what I mean? Like you have to be in a certain space,
right?
And
I like that song a lot, and I'll tell you why. I think that it's the perfect intro for an album like this because of what I was going back to before. Is like Kendrick was like, all right, let's just fucking burn everything down from my last album. I mean, he even talks about it on the intro. He literally is referencing Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe when he's talking about, burning bridges Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. Then he's referencing that. And that's another thing, by the way, that he does really well is that he'll reference things that he talked about on Section 80 on Good Kid, Mad City. Like in Sing About Me, he'll talk about, he talks about what's her name? Sister. I'm blanking on the name. Keisha's sister. Right.
Yep.
He talks about even coming forward to Pimp a Butterfly. I mean, and sometimes I think a lot of people don't like this about Kendrick is that he can kind of get like too like artsy smartsy on people.
Yeah, or like too preachy.
Yeah. But like on These Walls, he's coming back and he's telling, by the way, I think conceptually These Walls
is terrific. Yeah, it is
an amazing concept.
Yeah, and the last verse of it is just really good. Yeah.
And another thing that I think that he does, and going back to Wesley's Theory, is like he's tying it back to, where he was coming from, but he's introducing this new chapter of his life. He even has Dre say at the end, anyone can get famous, but keeping it is the hard part, right? Like, like, what are you going to do next, basically?
Right.
So he's kind of setting the stage for the rest of the album.
It was that's true. That's fair. It was a stage setter. Yeah, that is true. I would say the first great song on this is Institutionalized. And then
I think great song. I agree. I do like Wesley's Theory and King Kunta. I think that the concept on For Free, I don't listen to it by itself a lot. I think the concept is really strong, though.
What is interesting is his devil, his like the this is what I'm looking for. When he's talking about the devil, it's always a woman. It's always a woman. Is that like that's very? Has anyone ever like wrote like a inseparable thing?
That's a metaphorical thing, though.
Right, it's a metaphorical thing, but
for America, I believe, is America's because he says in For Free, America, you're a bad bitch. That's what I believe that he is referring to.
I think the whole "this dick ain't free." It's very much like Blood Money type thing.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah.
Right. It is interesting. And then no one's had. I don't know if a lot of these think pieces are like really inseparable because like they make it seem like only they've thought about it, which like not really true. Like a lot of people think about.
Almost always obvious.
Yeah, it's almost always very obvious. However, I wonder, like, has anyone ever wrote about like his metaphorical America and women type thing? Because it's really interesting. And it comes from. I wonder what space it comes from.
I listened to this one podcast called Dissect, and he dives really deep into the different approaches that he has to this, the different concepts that he has on this, and it's a lot to unpack. So when I listen to that podcast and I understand like certain things, like I told you on For Free and on King Kunta, he's actually referencing Mossberg, who was a rapper who died in his neighborhood when he was a kid. He was like on the verge of blowing up. He was like 21 years old and he got murdered. And so King Kunta has a very similar vibe to that song. He references on For Free, talking about the woman that is saying like, you didn't buy me the Brazilian wavy for the 4th, like 4th of July, tying that back to America, tying it back to Uncle Sam, tying it back to Mossberg, who was actually killed on the 4th of July, I believe.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's like a lot to unpack here. And I think that's why this album took me so long to enjoy, is because there's a lot going on and it's hard to really pin down what he's going for. And I think in terms of listenability, it's probably his hardest. I mean, like, dude, like songs like You, like we were talking about it. Like,
I mean, You is really, he should be really proud he made that track, but it's also incredibly difficult to listen to.
You got to be in a mood.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, the great tracks on this album are very few. So they jump. It's kind of like Institutionalized. And then you got These Walls, I think is great too. And then you got All Right. And then I'd say Hood Politics. And then I would say How Much a Dollar Costs. And then and then that's it for me. I mean,
the end of the album trails off a little bit.
Yeah, I don't really like I didn't like the single, and still the album version. The last verse is really clumsy. The NEGUS, it's weird. I don't need to listen to that.
It's also not. It's like the studio version. It's weird because the studio version, I hated it at first. Being a Kendrick fan and hearing that as his first single,
I Love Myself. It's goofy. Yeah, it's goofy.
It's cheesy. It's honestly, I sound pretentious, but it's kind of below Kendrick in terms of like his choice of. Like he sampled that Isley Brothers song, which is, by the way, one of the greatest songs of all time. But the choice to sample such a basic song in terms of like that song's been sampled before. Like this is not like this is the guy that's sampling. He samples Sufjan Stevens and random on Section 80. He's sampling random 70s funk songs that weren't popular at all.
Yeah, he had some Radiohead stuff on here. I don't know if
Portishead, I believe he sampled. Yeah, Portishead, he sampled, what did he sample on the last album? On Money Trees, he samples Beach House. Like, he's always been known for his obscure samples, and to sample a song like that was very disappointing to me. Now, actually, over time, I've grown to like that song a little bit more, even the studio version, but on here, it just doesn't really fit for me. Like, why did he do a live version of a song on an album? Like, why does... Like that to me, I understand he's trying to weave in the narrative, but sometimes he gets too married to the narrative.
Right. Unless it's a live actual song, then fine. But this isn't really a live actual song. It's just him like kind of like at a like a beatboxing thing or a beatnik thing, or like, you know what I mean? It's a poetry slam. I just don't really need to hear that on like a
and I think what he was trying to do was trying to tie in the the whole live jazz / funk appeal to it. But like I think he does that better on Untitled Unmastered, where it sounds a little bit raw and there are some songs on there that I'm like, dude, like, I think if he had fleshed out a few of the songs like Untitled 2, Untitled 3, Untitled 7, Untitled 5, that they would have fit better at the end of this album.
This is a very cinematic album, though. Similar to Good Kid, Mad City, which I don't think Damn had. I don't think Damn was as cinematic as this, but this is a very cinematic album. And what's interesting is, so I think it's a lot of like Spike Lee. A lot of Kendrick stuff reminds you of Spike Lee. And it's weird because like,
why's that?
So the characters in Spike Lee's movies, they have ulterior motives, they have this and that, they're thinking things and they don't always say it. And on a Kendrick Lamar album, I feel the same way. I feel like there's things that are holding him inside and he's trying to get it out. And they're kind of like shades and moods and things of that nature. So the fury of All Right kind of reminds you when Mookie in Do the Right Thing slammed the garbage in the pizza place, right? Mm-hmm. So if anyone's seen Do the Right Thing. So I've always thought that. And Craig Jenkins, who wrote this for Pitchfork, he's not a Pitchfork anymore. Shout out to homie Craig. He's not a Pitchfork anymore. But when he wrote it for Pitchfork, he felt the same way. That it kind of that Kendrick Lamar. He said, I think the sentence was, he said, Kendrick Lamar albums are Spike Lee movies in like miniature, and like that's a really adept comparison. I felt.
That's really cool, actually. And I've always thought about him as a more cinematic storytelling kind of person, but I've never really quite tied it to, one person.
It's not storytelling in a classic sense of the way, not like Nas or another Slick Rick, but it's more storytelling in the inward, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Right. No, I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I've heard people actually compare on Good Kid, Mad City. I've heard people compare the intro on that. Like, how Shireen kind of takes place in the middle of the story. It takes place in the, and then it comes back around like Poetic Justice and everything after that. And Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe is almost like the opening credits to the album, where it's like, okay, now you're on the second song, and like we're still like not fully into the narrative, like we don't really know what's going on. Someone was like, that's almost like kind of like Tarantino-esque, where like he'll throw in a fucking scene at the beginning of the movie that you have no idea what's happening until you're halfway through the movie, which I think is a really unique approach to music. Like, I mean, there are like musicians that make super cinematic like music, but it's hard to make it like, honestly, like, and I actually probably like Childish Gambino a little bit more than like your average hip hop head, but I would say he's someone who has a really hard time. Like, he has cinematic music, but it's not quite as compelling, or he's not as good with the narrative. Yeah, because the internet is exactly what I'm thinking.
The internet is a cinematic movie, but or a cinematic album, it's just not good.
I like some songs on there. I tend to like how experimental he is with that. Probably
better. Do you think he's better acting than he is making music?
Yeah, I would probably say so. I think he's a little bit better with. He's a very theatrical person, so I think he's probably better at acting and writing in general than he is with music. Yeah. But I would say that I think the difference, the major difference.
I hated that Redbone album. I mean, I just think it's P-Funk for people who go to Starbucks.
I'm not a big fan of it either.
I don't know who he's trying. I don't know. I don't mean to venture off to Childish Gambino, but I will say this thing. I don't know what he's trying to do. Like, is he trying to fool people? Like, that's
I have a piece of information that is like, and I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, I know Childish Gambino, because I don't know Childish Gambino. But I used to work with a kid who went to high school with him, and he wasn't friends with him. He barely knows him, but he was good friends with a girl that Childish Gambino used to be friends with. And when he was in high school, he used to make mixes for her because, he's a little bit older. He would make like mix CDs and shit when like you were first able to like burn CDs. And he made a bunch of different like mixes for her, like a rap mix, funk mix, an R&B mix. And he told her when they were in high school that if he ever makes it as a musician, that he has these ideas for albums, and he wants to make a rap one, he wants to make a funk one, he wants to make an R&B one, and he wants to make, so like that
him telling a girl that is like really on brand.
Yeah, I mean, he was just trying to impress her. But when I found that out, I was like,
he seems to want to do that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that his ideas tend to be very ambitious, but I
don't think he has the chops though,
his execution isn't quite there as someone like a Kendrick Lamar or Kanye West, who have these ambitious ideas and actually.
I said that I didn't really like To Pimp a Butterfly's execution, but it's way better than any execution that Childish Gambino has ever had.
Oh no, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that Kendrick, I think the reason I like this album so much is because I think it's wildly important. I think it contains some of Kendrick's deepest raps. I think it contains some of his most unique, and I'm kind of a sucker. Obviously, that's why I like Section 80. I'm kind of a sucker for jazz beats. Like, I think it's one of the few.
You are much more into them than I am, which is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that, and I'm not the kind of person.
Yeah, I compliment you for it.
I'm not the kind of person who thinks that like jazz or like the only, like, I know some old guys that are like exactly what you were talking about before, where like rap music is, not as good when people aren't rapping over these experimental jazz. I'm not that kind of person, because like I like, a Young Thug album or whatever album, or even just like a standard rap album in terms of beats.
Yeah, you love Illmatic just as much as I do. You love
exactly, and but also like I think that jazz is one of the few genres that jazz and electronic are two of the genres that I think that have the most success with the crossover because it works so well with the artists.
It does work well, especially in the background. For a trumpet to be in the background of someone's voice, it does work really well.
Definitely, and even Illmatic has that.
Yeah, his Nas's dad is very good on Life's a Bitch. But like, yeah, and like on All Right, you hear the what is it? Is that a saxophone? Is that Terrace Martin saxophone on All Right?
I don't think it is. Is it? It might be.
It is. Hold on.
The only reason I say that is because that was a Pharrell beat.
Alto saxophone. I mean, it sounds great.
Terrace is an unbelievable saxophone player.
Yeah, he's unbelievable.
I mean, going back to Section 80, Ab-Soul's outro, like that whole what he's like, that whole solo at the end, like with the free style jazz on there. Untitled Unmastered, he's unbelievable on there too.
Yeah, and like he's on Still Brazy too, and I mean, you know how much I love Still Brazy.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's fantastic, and one of the reasons why I think it's fantastic is I think it expands upon what To Pimp a Butterfly is attempting to do. However, YG is just he's putting such a gangster, tough guy atmosphere on it that it's just the energy on it is ridiculous. I mean, you're gonna be. I don't even mean to be corny, but you're gonna be wearing a red bandana. Like
he also ties it to more.
I mean, it's a callback to like Doggy Style and all like the '90s gangster funk, but it kind of flips on its ass a little bit even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Kendrick actually, even though the instrumentation is really different on this album, I actually think a lot of the concepts and a lot of the like shout outs that he's doing on here, like in terms of paying homage to like legends, like, Tupac with like the freestyle. I mean, I talked about this before where Tupac is on, from, For Free is completely referencing that Tupac movie from the 90s right before or it might have been released after he died. I can't remember the name of it right now. I just sent it to you the other day. What was it?
Gang Related, I believe.
Gang Related. Yeah, he has that and he references it on
By the way, he was really good in that. Like Tupac was a great actor.
Oh my god, he was an unbelievable
actor. You guys got to go and watch a movie that Tupac's in. He's really good in it.
Yeah, seriously. I've always thought that.
Game Related, he's really good in it. And like Juicy's good.
Juice, yeah, he's incredible in Juice.
He was a really good actor in general.
Yeah, and I think that he is, it was Gridlocked. Life is a Traffic Jam is something that he references on outro.
Gridlock. That's actually one I haven't seen.
I haven't seen it either, but I've heard that he references that a lot throughout here, which ends with the whole Tupac interview.
Although Poetic Justice, I don't think it's good, but
I can't say I've ever seen that one. Although Kendrick samples that on Good Kid, Mad City.
Yeah, that one is with Janet Jackson, and what's interesting is Janet Jackson is the sample on Poetic Justice.
Yeah, with Drake and
Drake, right.
Conveniently gets us into the next album.
I think the Janet, right. I think the Janet song that he samples is called Anytime, Any Place.
Yeah, it is. Okay. I believe it was on the soundtrack for that movie, which is why he called it Poetic Justice.
Right, he called it Poetic Justice. Right. I think that's I think that might also I think it's originally on the title track Janet. Or the title album, the self-titled album, Janet.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that. So little tidbit there. I feel like we're just dropping knowledge on this pod. But Good Kid, Mad City, you had that at number 2. I
got that at number 2. Yeah. So the first 10.
I have that at number 1. I just want to say.
Okay. Oh, interesting. The first 10 tracks of Good Kid, Mad City are unbelievable. Like if you're just looking at that track list, it goes Serene. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, which I'm not as big on as everyone else is, but it's still good. Backseat Freestyle, which I love. I bang that. I mean, I bang that like crazy. The Art of Peer Pressure, Money Trees. There's nothing else to say about J-Rock's guest verse on Money Trees. It's fantastic. He brings us a specific type of mood and a specific type of energy and charisma to it that the song was lacking. You're waiting for a payoff, and he just brings it. It's incredible. I will defend Poetic Justice to this day. I think it bangs. I think it's a really good track. I think the beat's great. I think Drake is good on it. Like, I mean, as good as you can want for an album like this, he's really good on it. And I haven't always been a fan of Drake rapping. I think Drake's a much better R&B. I think he's much better when he goes R&B than he is when he goes rap. But this verse I will defend. I really like it. The Good Kid song that Pharrell made is good. And Mad City is one of Kendrick's 5 best songs. So I mean,
absolutely,
yeah, that's 8. And then you got Swimming Pools and Sing About Me Dying of Thirst is terrific also.
Yeah, I mean, Real and Compton. I mean, dude, that's only 2 songs at the end that you don't really like.
Well, no, because the second half of Sing About Me, I don't like. The Dying of Thirst part is
okay. So you don't like I'm Dying. Okay,
yeah.
So 2.5 songs, really.
2.5 songs, really. Yeah, I'm not really big on it, but it's a letdown. You know what I mean? It's like it's a kind of like a letdown for me. Like they happen at the end. So the sequencing is weird. So like when you're listening to it, you're like, oh, this shit's hot. And then you don't like the final 2. It's kind of just like, it's kind of a bummer. You know what I mean? And it's like Real is boring. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, it's too earnest and it's very preachy. I'm not a fan. And Compton, I just don't think it's that good. I just don't think it fits. Yeah, I just don't think Compton really fits.
I don't think it fits. And I also think that,
not just Blaze's finest work.
Also. And also Dr. Dre, like it's just he's kind of forced in there because I mean, you know, he's
the big homie, so he's got
exactly. The Kendrick.
I wish the Recipe was actually on here instead of Compton. The Recipe would have been a great outro instead of Compton.
That would have been interesting, actually.
Yeah, I really like the Recipe, actually.
And this album could have been totally different.
Also, Black Boy Fly is good too.
But that as a bonus track, that was a good one. Yeah. Although I hated the song with Mary J. Blige.
Yeah, I didn't like that one either. Yeah,
that song sucked. But this album could have been.
I love Barry, but I didn't really like it.
Yeah. They didn't mesh well together. This album could have been totally different if Cartoon and Cereal, which
Cartoons and Cereal,
which was originally supposed to be the intro to this album.
I mean that if you were to say that was, it's funny. Kendrick Lamar's best song might not ever it's not on any streaming sites. You can't really get it anywhere. You have to like kind of share files for it and go on YouTube. But it's a fantastic song. Gunplay's verse on that is incredible. Imagine if he had Good Kid, Mad City, and he doesn't even have 2 of the best verses on it because you would have had J-Rock and you would have had Gunplay. You know, so
yeah, that's true. Actually, I think that you get some of. I'll put it like this. I think that you get some of Kendrick's best storytelling on this album. I actually think probably his best storytelling that he's done throughout his career. I think it's definitely his best songwriting. I think that
the best storytelling I've heard him do was Duckworth, and we'll get to that song. But go ahead.
I don't mean throughout. I just mean throughout the whole album. Like the overarching, like narrative of the album is really sound. I think it contains 3 or 4 of his best songs that he's ever created. I actually am in that camp that really does like Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. At first, I didn't really know what to think of it because the way
it's too low key. It's too low key for me.
It's very psychedelic. It's very jazzy and in a different way than To Pimp a Butterfly. It's very floaty. He does that thing that he does on ADHD that I talked about, where he raps and he does the monotone rapping under that I think works really well on this. This chorus is just it's mesmerizing to me. Like, I think that this, I always said, like, this chorus kind of reminded me of an album that came out around the same time in a completely different genre, which is one of my favorite albums from the decade, is Lonerism by Tame Impala. Feels like we only go backwards. It's kind of one of those choruses.
Yeah, Lonerism's incredible. I'm glad.
I love that album, and it's one of those choruses. Both of these songs kind of lull you to sleep. I know you said it's low key, but I just love how dreamy and mesmerizing they sound, and how they kind of they're constantly building on itself, and then by the end you have him and Anna Wise going back and forth, and
Anna's great, man. She does always great work with him.
They work really well together, actually. I think that I'm kind of surprised she hasn't had more success as a solo artist. But yeah, I mean, she appears on this thing a few times. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, Money Trees, Real, which I also tend to think that's actually my least favorite song on the album.
Yeah, it's probably my least favorite song on the album too. It's very preachy. As I said, it's very preachy and it's really boring. It's long. His verses aren't even that tight on it. It's just unnecessary. I'm good off that.
It's like, like the whole and I want to talk about how much I love this album at a certain point, but like more so probably than you, it being my number 1. But the Real, like, I remember like the she loves her, it loves me, it loves, it's very repetitive. It's very the alien voice kind of goes a little bit too far on this song for me. It almost sounds like he just hit puberty and it's just kind of an annoying chorus. Like, I really think that song, like, even if Compton was a bonus track or like ended the album, like, I'm fine with it. Like, it's not my favorite song. Like, I think Kendrick does pretty well on there. It's an okay song, but like, if
can we blame Eminem for Kendrick's alien voice stuff?
What's that?
Can we blame Eminem for Kendrick's alien voice stuff?
But here's the thing. Sometimes the alien voice stuff works.
That's
like,
true. Yeah,
it works on Section 80 sometimes. It works on some songs. On
He once said that he got the inspiration to do multiple voices from Eminem.
That's interesting. I mean, him and Andre 3000 and Eminem are the only ones I could think of from that.
Wayne
him
also,
growing up. Oh, Wayne too. But those three
also.
from him growing up would be the ones that I would point to that did like very alien type voices and different. So I'm not like crazy surprised on that, but I'm definitely like, I kind of wish, and that's something that I had a problem with Damn, which we'll talk about later. But throughout this album, like, I mean, come on, man. Like, not only am I not skipping a song, like, this shit is fucking incredible to me. Like, Art of Peer Pressure is one of the most anxiety written songs I've ever heard. Anxiety ridden songs. Also, probably he had anxiety when he wrote it.
Yeah.
But Backseat Freestyle is a banger.
I think I wish that the beat on Art of Peer Pressure was a little better. But I think that his verses are undeniable. They're really tight. They're good. Yeah.
And it's one of those songs that you kind of have to listen to by yourself. There are a few songs on here where in order, like I like to listen to that song with headphones because it kind of just surrounds you and really gets you in the mindset of what him and his friends were going through on that night. Muddy Trees is my favorite song on the whole album.
Is that your favorite track on the whole album? Okay.
Yeah. And the reason I think
is probably mine.
I think that the reason to me that song has the most like I'm a sucker for songs that are ironically upbeat. Like, if you just listen to this song on the surface, like, first off, like, it sounds like it could be like a cheery little anthem, like, hallelujah. Like, it's kind of like fun. We're trying to get it, you bish.
Yeah,
but if you actually listen to, like, first off, musically, if you listen to the sound of the song, it's wildly depressing. Like, I mean, it's this psyche. He reversed the sample from the one of my favorite Beach House songs. What's it? It's on Bloom.
Silver Soul. I think it's on
Soul. Yes, it is.
I think it's on. Is that on Bloom?
Is it on Teen Dream or Bloom? I can't remember. I think it might be Teen Dream. You might be right.
I don't know. I'm trying to look. I'm trying to look right now because I like Beach House too. That's on Teen Dream. It's on Teen Dream. Teen Dream.
Okay. So the reason that I love this song so much is like, and it's the same reason why I like To Pimp a Butterfly so much, is like Kendrick and Section 82 is that Kendrick, like, to hear that beat that DJ Dolly produced, by the way. I love DJ Dolly. I think he's fucking great.
Yeah, DJ Dolly is very underrated. He also did Worst Behavior, which is one of Drake's best beats.
I think that's one, and he did Lift Me Up by Vince Staples, I believe.
He did Lift Me Up, yeah.
Let Me Know by Vince Staples.
He also did Drug Dealers Anonymous.
Yep, he has a lot of really good beats. Like, I that guy rarely misses. But anyway, for Kendrick to hear that beat and like think, and actually Beach House, when they found out that Kendrick was sampling it, they were like, "Oh my God, we love Kendrick! Like, we're so honored that he would use our sound." Like, that sound is so California, but at the same time, it's like it's depressing, and it's like it's very existential, and I think it's just the perfect beat for this song. Like, that song really like touches me on a level, still gives me chills to this day. Like,
I mean, J-Rock's verse it's special. You know what I mean? You're gonna be
inarguably one of the greatest feature verses of all time, I think.
Yeah, like if you're putting someone on to rap, you're like, you need to listen to this verse.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
and I think Kendrick
that's what this is. Yeah.
Appeals to, and I think a lot of the reason why people don't like Kendrick as much as probably they used to is because Kendrick has kind of become a lot. He gets a lot of crossover where like people who don't really understand hip hop and where it comes from enjoy it. But there's also a beauty to that, in that like you can be like, okay, listen to this, and then you can show them other stuff that is more, not attuned to like, like rap that is like out of that person's element, like that they wouldn't normally listen to. He's a good artist to bridge people to hip hop, I think.
Yeah, that has its pitfalls and that has its strengths, but that is an honor. It's really, you know, only the best artists really get that type of mantle.
I definitely think so.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I still love this album. There's a wild amount of nostalgia to this album. Structurally, there's very few songs on here that are the same. Flow wise, he's constantly changing his flow. Mad City, as you said, is one of his best songs. That whole like,
yeah, I think the last verse of Mad City is a little bit kind of like it's kind of like a caricature of like a Kendrick Lamar verse kind of, but like the first verse of it, it's undeniably terrific. So
do you mean the last full verse, or do you mean the outro?
No, yes, I mean the one where he was like would you jump in the seat, or would you be afraid of me, or so.
Oh, I love that. The only reason I love that is because I think
it's a little bit too like he's attempting to be too preachy, in my opinion, attempting to be too kind of smart and controversial.
Oh no, I get that, but I also think that
if I told you I killed, it's like if I told you I killed a nigga at 16, would you believe me or assume me to be innocent Kendrick? Yeah, it's just those question type of like verses, they're odd to me. I
love the vocal manipulation on that part. I love it constantly going up and down and high pitched, and you know, and then he's, you know, I just think that in terms of like, and if you want to talk about a payoff for a song, like right when he finishes his verse and then it goes into that like very Dr. Dre sounding synth at the end, just that is like some shit that I've talked about it with Kendrick, is like, to me, it's mind blowing that this guy doesn't do drugs, because like
it sounds like someone who was on right.
Yeah, and like he's actually, the purpose I know of that part of the song, and he references it, is that like the first time that he smoked weed, it was laced with PCP, and you know, he had this like almost like schizophrenic kind of approach to it, like which is that's supposed to be simulating him devolving and losing his mind while, you know, tripping on PCP. So like that is like some like next level shit to me. Like, I understand why you wouldn't really like it all that much, but like I think that it really ties the song together really well, and I believe that's his only like true drug experience. And like for him to have one experience on drugs and to be able to make like so many songs and concepts that are like some seemingly tied to that same like psychedelic sound, that same you know, very druggy influence sound, I think he's like that's why I think he's a really special type of artist.
I think that this is probably a top 5 to 10 track by him, maybe a top 5 one. He goes on the end of the first verse. I mean, I probably think the second verse is the best one, but the end of the first verse, he goes, when you hop out that trolley, make sure your color's correct, make sure you're corporate, they be calling your mother collect. They say the governor collect all our taxes, except when we in traffic, when traffic happens, that shit ain't no threat. You moving backwards if you suggest that you sleep with a tech. Go buy a chopper and have a Dodger and speed out, I guess. Mad City. I mean, that is so tight. Like, that is so tight. And then on the second verse, he goes, cocaine laced in marijuana, and they wonder why I really smoke now. Imagine if your first blunt has you foaming out the mouth.
That's what he's talking about, yeah.
The next weekend we broke even. I made allegiance to make a promise to see you bleeding. You know the reason, but still, you never know my life. Kendrick, aka Compton's Human Sacrifice. Yeah, I mean, those are some of the best. I think that Kendrick has a tendency when he raps to get a little cluttered, but like when he's like smooth with the flow and it's just coming at you, and it doesn't feel like it's coming at you on like different ears and stuff like that, and like it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like it's rushed. I mean, it's impeccable.
It's fucking brilliant. And really, I think he even carries that over a little bit. I mean, we've talked about swimming pools before. You know, that is the ironic drinking anthem. But
I think sometimes he gets in his own way a little bit. But when he's like it's just clear. I mean, fantastic. And swimming pools, like you said, is a great hit. It's one of his best hits in general.
And that was his first hit too. Like I remember I played it for people when it first came out, because obviously being like a huge fan of Section 80, I was like waiting, and I was like, this shit is so different from what he's done before, so I didn't really know what to think of it. But over the course of that summer, I just played it, and I would play it for people, and they were like, this is cool, but like, what the fuck is this? Right. Like, this is not something that you would put on at a party and you would expect people to like be like, okay. And then over the course of that year, by the time the album came out, like it was a hit, and it really like brought him to this next level. But like, I think where he really thrives is this, like talking, and as we've said before, talking about these large societal issues, making them accessible to the public instead of being like, you know, no offense, one of my favorite MCs, not favorite, but like I think he's a great MC, is Talib Kweli. But like Talib Kweli, it makes it hard to access what his message is, because
he's not a great songwriter, right?
And also a certain type of person is just never going to listen to a Talib Kweli song. Like, he is very preachy. He's very like, you know, pretty much like, unless you are a hip hop head, you might not even know who Talib Kweli is. So my whole thing with Kendrick is that he has the smarts to make these tracks that have this crossover appeal, and then it allows him to write freely on other songs and talk about exactly what he wants to talk about. Like on the next song, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. The first half of that song, I agree, it is much really better.
Yeah, and the second half is it's a bummer. Yeah, it's not as good.
No, and it's not necessarily bad. It's just kind of trails off towards the end, and I think
yeah,
and Sing About Me, like God, that song still gives me chills too. Like the concept of, you know, his friend's brother, and, you know, him dying, and then him talking to Kendrick about, will you sing about me? Will you tell my story? And then you get the other end from the woman who we talked about on Keisha, who we talked about on Section 80, her sister saying, don't fucking tell our story, because you can't tell our story. You don't know where we come from. You don't know my life. Fuck you. And then the last part, it's like, you know, if I sing about everyone else, who will sing about me? Like, that is, like, conceptually, I think he's one of the greatest rap artists of all time. I think he's one of the best musicians of all time because of shit like that. Like, I mean, that's just such a brilliant concept. And these fucking verses are like 36 bars, and I never get tired of them. And that's very hard to do.
Yeah, it's really not easy. It's not easy. And Sing About Me, it's terrific. Yeah, I wish that I didn't turn the song off after like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful song too. Like, I believe Q-Tip produced this.
Did he do this one?
I think it was Q-Tip. Maybe I'm off here, but I want to say that Q-Tip produced.
I think it's Soundwave.
Soundwave. Okay, that makes more sense. That actually makes a lot more sense, just because Soundwave, I mean, he produced Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe too. He knows Kendrick. So I've talked about this before too, is that Kendrick will say, I
think Q-Tip work together because they really need to.
I think I could have sworn he helped produce the song, but maybe he didn't. But he says to Soundwave, like, make a song sound purple, make a song sound green, make a song sound orange. And Soundwave knows Kendrick so well that he knows exactly what he's talking about. And like, to me, that's a really cool connection. And it shows why they vibe so well, and why they work so well, and why they've stayed like such an important duo over the years.
Yeah, they really do good work together. They're kind of like Future and Zaytoven. They have such great chemistry.
Absolutely, yeah. And so I believe that brings us to our last album, which is Jason's number 1 and my number 4. So we definitely disagree on this one a little bit. So I need to hear it from your perspective, and then I'll say it from my perspective as someone who's been like, you know, Kendrick diehard number 1 stan since like 2011. So
Damn incorporates all of the concept stuff that everyone loves about Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly, but it's so tight and it's so concise, and it's probably the most well thought out of everything.
It's definitely the most cohesive.
Yeah, it's the most cohesive of his albums by far. He takes the lyricism that we really love, but it's also incredibly accessible. I mean, a song like people make it seem like he has like pop on this album, and it's crap. They make
he does a little bit.
He does a little bit, but like it's a negative connotation when they say it. But like a song like Loyalty is like really great. That's a terrific song. Rihanna's got a great chorus on it. The beat's terrific. Like DJ Dahi does that beat along with Soundwave, along with Terrence Martin. Top Dog also helps with it, which is cool. And it's like DNA is, and oh my god, he kills DNA. I mean, that beat is Mike Will kills that beat and he murders it. And like Ya's a terrific song. Elements his like
Ya's my favorite, actually.
Really, Ya's your favorite? Interesting.
Yeah.
Element, yeah, Ya's. I mean, to talk about Ya for a second, Ya is great. The flow on that, the compact kind of like he's just giving you out like sentences, like, you know what I mean, like. Today
very laid back, chill.
Very laid back. Today is a day I follow my intuition. You know what I mean? It's like, Yeah is a really good song. That's a good call by you. Yeah, and all these songs are connected to one another as well. You know,
I find a hard time following the narrative on this album.
Did you really?
Like, not like that. I think that it's too Like, I think To Pimp a Butterfly at times is too complex. I don't think that Damn's narrative is that complex.
It's a lot of Bible stuff. I don't know if you're.
Yeah, I'm not a religious guy, but
I'm not either. But I did kind of like read up on some of the stuff he's talking about. So a lot of it's based on the book of Deuteronomy.
Yeah, he talks about Deuteronomy all the time.
Yeah, and it's on the book of Deuteronomy. They talk about how believe if I'm wrong about this, people, you can tell me on Twitter, but I believe what the book of Deuteronomy is trying to say is that we have consequences in our actions and stuff of that nature.
Right.
And the Israelites and if we're not in order to reverse that type of damnation and which is the album's called Damn, and reverse that type of bad luck or a bad omen, we need to convert to we need to be Hebrews and we need to be Israelites and things of that nature. And so on Yah, when he goes on Yah, he says, where does he go? What does he say? Hold on.
In Deuteronomy, say that we all been cursed. I know I walked the earth.
Right, exactly. My cousin called, Duckworth. Yeah. And the book of Deuteronomy goes, the Lord will send you curses, confusion, and frustration in all that you undertake to do. Until you are destroyed and perish quickly on account of evil, your deeds will have forsaken me. So I think it's a metaphor for what Kendrick's place in the world right now, and he's trying to tie that into when they were trying to tie it into when Israelites were people of God, and I think that's
right. I think there's a sect of people, the Black Israelites, and he mentions that on here too.
Because his cousin, who's on Fear with the voicemail, is very big into that. Apparently, that's what his voicemail is about. He's saying that Deuteronomy 28:28 says, "The Lord shall smite thee with madness and astonishment of heart." So he's basically saying that until you finally get that type of prayer and what that means, you'll always feel the angst that you feel and stuff of that nature.
Right. Is he tying it back to Kendrick's personal experiences? You're trying it back because that's what I think a lot of people were confused by.
Tying it into the way Kendrick's feeling himself, because he says, "What's up, family? It's your cousin Carl, man. Yeah, just giving you a call. I know you've been having a lot on your mind lately, and you feel like people haven't been praying for you, but you need to understand this, that we're a cursed people." He's saying that no one's going to help you. We're already cursed, and that you need to start living in your own life. And it's kind of what Kendrick's motto has always been, like personal responsibility. That's kind of always been his type of deal. And it kind of ties it in. It ties it in really well, I feel like. And it's better. It's way more thought out and clear on this album than it's ever been. I don't agree with any of the politics about it, or I should say, or the
ideology.
The overall ideology I'm not really into.
Yeah.
He talks about it much better on this album than he's done on any other album. I think
it's really hard to make like religion interesting in music too.
But he's doing it on this album, and I think more so than he's ever done it before. I don't think it's that interesting on Good Kid, Mad City. A lot of Good Kid, Mad City is really Christian. It's on the opening of Shireen's, the Lord's Prayer. But I think this is much more ideological and a much more well thought out than the other ones previously. So it always confuses me when people think that Damn is like a less intellectual, or intellectual is kind of a insufferable word, but a less,
you're not far off though.
Yeah, a less mature album, and to me, I think it's the most mature. It's the most concise.
I don't think that it's a less mature album by any means. I actually think that to follow up to Pimp a Butterfly, the thing about Kendrick is he always keeps you on his toes, right? To follow up to Pimp a Butterfly with Damn is like, holy shit. Like, okay, now he's going complete opposite direction again. Like you have a guy who just released, what people considered to be a modern rap classic, maybe for the second time, a modern rap debut classic, and now he's going completely different route. He's going a more commercial sound, and I think it works a lot on here. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I think that a lot of the times he does hit. Like, DNA is a great fucking intro. Yaz, one of my favorite.
It's fantastic. DNA is.
I think DNA is really good, and it bangs. I think I would like it a little bit more if it had that when he switches the beat and it has that bass drop on the second half.
Yeah.
That is what really gets me going on that song. The first half I really like his rapping, and I really like, but I think that the beat is lacking a little bit until you get that bass drop. Like that to me, Yeah, to me,
I
like
think
that
Mike
song
Will,
becomes a banger then.
I think Mike Will might be the most talented producer he's ever worked with. Well, Knife Wonder is also on this album too. But Mike Will, Alchemist, and Knife Wonder just do a great job on this one. Like Damn also has
more than Dre. He's worked with Dre a ton.
No, but he hasn't had Dre's best beats though. Dre's best stuff was
on Compton though. He has a few. He has a few.
Compton's on Just Blaze did Compton, I believe though.
Yeah. I also Dre is not. He's kind of like Kanye in that like
he's doesn't actually stuff. Yeah,
he doesn't actually like flesh out all the beats. He's kind of more of like
he's like a businessman at this point. Let's be real. He's a businessman at this point. He makes like
he has the final say.
Yeah. He's a businessman. He's in the office at this point. He's not doing any music anymore, really. And like,
I agree.
Yeah, and like his best stuff was always like in like early '90s. Like his NWA stuff, believe it or not, is really underrated. But his best stuff is probably that Chronic and Doggy Style thing. He was in a zone. He didn't miss one track. Not one track didn't slap. Yeah,
true.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But like so Duckworth, I think it might be. It's in the top 5 for me. It really at this moment, my top 5 changes. So it goes like Cartridge of Cereal, All Right, Duckworth, Mad City, and I think Fear. And then I go
Fear is another one of those songs on this album that I really, really like. I love the concept on that too.
Fear is incredible. And like that 5, you can like change and it'll be my favorite Kendrick song. Right now, it might be Duckworth. I mean, it's the best storytelling he's ever done. I mean, what he's going for is like he's tying in a specific part of himself. His dad used to work for KFC. Like his boss used to rob KFC, and now they're reaping the benefits because Anthony didn't kill his dad. Actually.
Yeah. And that's another one that's really good. I do like the beat on that. I know that you love the beat.
I love it. But Which is amazing. Knife Wonder, it's the best.
I think it's really good, and I am a big Ninth Wonder fan, but I'm not in love with it. I think that my biggest problem with Damn is that sometimes the commercial crossover works. DNA, Humble. I like Loyalty. That's a decent song. Sometimes I think undeniably this contains two of Kendrick's worst songs, which are Love. To me, Love is
I don't like Love either. Yeah.
Love is like a shitty 80s fucking I usually like Zakari, but I think he's terrible on this. That like really love me. And Kendrick just kind of sounds out of his element on this song. Element's another one, actually, no pun intended, is a decent crossover song too that I think could have a lot of replayability.
I love Element. Yeah, I mean,
I think God is his worst song I've ever heard, though. I really do not like God. I think God sounds like he's going for
it's worse than For Sale. It's worse than
yes. I think at least For Sale tries to have a purpose. I think God is whiny. I think that he just stumbles through that song. The first time I heard God, I was like, what the fuck is this? I don't
skip it. That's interesting. I don't skip it. I think that he hit on 13 of the 14. I think he has the best percentage he's ever had on an album on Damn.
I think that at times you get too much singing from Kendrick. And I think that Kendrick is, to me, he's kind of like Kid Cudi, in that Kid Cudi isn't really a good singer, but he has an interesting like voice and approach to it. So sometimes it works, but on here you're getting songs like Pride where he's like, and he's doing what sounds like a dying animal to me at points. And usually that kind of song would be, that's kind of tailored to my taste.
It's Pride is really good though. I mean, I think this album has his tightest verses,
I think that the vocal manipulation on that song kind of loses me a little bit. From the beginning. Kendrick does this thing on Black Panther. I think that Kendrick's kind of in the commercial stage of his career, and sometimes it really works and sometimes it really doesn't. But like, for example, on Pride, it's hard for me to get into that song because of how much he's changing his vocals at the beginning. He does the same thing on Ops on the Black Panther soundtrack, where it's like he never gets his flow quite going because he's so obsessed with trying to layer and change. And these are things that I thought he did better in his earlier career.
Okay. That's
like
fair.
on Ops, like he'll change his flow and the vocals like 4 times in like a 16-bar verse, and it's hard to him forget to get his footing on the flow. And I think it just kind of disrupts the momentum of the song. And like, I think the reason that I put it 4 is because I think it has it definitely has some really human moments, but like I think that I connected more to the human moments on To Pimp a Butterfly, Good Kid, Mad City, and Section 80 just because I think that, like you said, you like him as a rap superstar, right? Like you think that he's much more interesting as a rap superstar. I think that he was.
I would say if you ask Kendrick, he might agree with you, but I think
he said Damn's his best.
Oh, so there you go.
He agrees with you. Well, no, he agrees with you because also, like, it's like when Jay-Z went on his Magna Carta Holy Grail tour and he said that it was his fourth best album.
Fourth best album,
yeah. And it's like
not true.
Absolutely not true. But like, what is he going to go on tour and be like, nah, this album fucking sucks. Like, don't buy it.
Like, on a song like XXX, I relate to it so much. He goes, it's a phone call between him and his friend, and his friend's trying to say, like, hey, I know you're at a certain level of life where you have it all. You've done it. You're anointed. Tell me how I should feel about the situation. His friend, I guess his friend's son just got killed, and he's saying, like, hey, what should I do here? And he's like, yo, I can't sugarcoat the answer for you. This is how I feel. If somebody killed my son, that means somebody's getting killed.
Yeah,
and it's great. Like, for me, and it's just like, this is a person who is still the person from Compton. He is still this human being. You know
Absolutely,
yeah. You're like, he's just like, K-Dot, can you pray for me? It's been a fucked up day for me. I know that you anointed. Show me how to overcome. And he's like, hoping I could bring him closer to my spirit, to the spiritual. My spirit do know better, but I told him I can sugarcoat the answer for you. This is how I feel. And he's just saying, like, hey, I'll do this, I'll do that. If someone does this, I'll do this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and then he goes, we're going to talk about gun control after he's saying he's going to kill this person. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a metaphor for his standing in America and like his standing as a superstar now. People expect him to speak on this thing. They expect him to speak on that thing. And they do it a lot to many different artists. They do it a lot to Drake. Drake gets it a lot too. Like, Drake has to say this. Why isn't Drake saying that? And like, Drake can do whatever the fuck he wants to do. You know what I mean? So same thing with Kendrick, like, you don't have to expect, we shouldn't expect these people to, sure, it's nice if they do this and that.
But I think it's a good meditation on celebrity for sure.
Yeah, and the expectation,
that's one of the best songs on the album too.
Yeah, it's terrific. To be honest, it's really terrific, and it's really I didn't think it was going to be this way. It's really unexpectedly really good. Like, when it was billed and it said featuring U2, I was like, oh, this is going to be so corny. Like, and by the way, I love U2. I'm not saying, by the way, like, everyone's like going to be.
But it's 2017.
But it's 2017, right? U2 had a run from 1980 to 1990. I think it was 97 because Pop came out in 97 and Pop's great. From 1980 to 1997, they didn't really miss. Besides like Ride on the Hum, they didn't miss like one time. But it's 2017 and like no one wants to hear U2. But Bono sounds great on this actually. And it's what he's trying. I think it's similar to Zorupa and it's similar to Pop in terms of the Christianity in it and the meditation on this country. It's one of Kendrick's best tracks. It's great. The second beat, the first beat's good, but the second beat's terrific. Also, there's just the drums on it. It's XXX is really great.
I do think that's one of the better songs. I think that the reason where we get these really like human, and in a way, this is a more personal album from him. He's talking about topics that he hasn't talked about, but he's also rehashing a lot of topics that he's talked about, which to me just kind of gets like old by the end. It's not that he's, I think that we have heard a lot of this by Kendrick before. And I think the reason why I don't connect with this album as much as I connect with the other ones, being a Kendrick stan, is like, I'm always expecting Kendrick to do something wildly different from everyone else. Whereas this one, like I said before, he's kind of changing his sound a little bit for the mainstream. I mean, I don't think he's going full pop. I don't think they're really.
So I think that you think that this is his graduation. Would that be?
Yeah, but I think it's better than Graduation.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Because for me, I think that I believe in the process a little more than you do, in that I think that it is incredibly difficult for a rapper to stay interesting while also being accessible, and that's
true.
And
that's actually a really good point. And I actually still think it was my favorite album from last year. Keep in mind,
yes,
this is not like I'm hating on the album, but it's like the expectations are different.
Yeah, for me, like when it didn't win album of the year, I was disappointed because I felt it really was the album of the year.
And it sampled the album of the year at the Grammys.
Right. A lot of people
fuck the Grammys, dude.
Fuck the Grammys. Yeah, they suck. A lot of people were upset that To Pimp a Butterfly didn't win. And I was like, I'm okay with that. But damn, I was just like, no, it should ruin. But so
well, I think what a lot of people have said, and I think I might have heard you before say this, but like this won the Pulitzer Prize, and To Pimp a Butterfly didn't. But like To Pimp a Butterfly sounds like it was made to win Grammys and the Pulitzer Prize.
It would right. To Pimp a Butterfly sounds like it was made to really win the Pulitzer Prize, and Damn sounds like it was a rap album. And like I'm very much like I want to hear a rap album. I don't really need all the other theatrics. However, To Pimp a Butterfly, if you're talking about the definition of someone winning the Pulitzer Prize for music, or what was it for music or for arts or whatever the fuck?
Yeah.
That To Pimp a Butterfly was the type of the album. The definition of that would be.
It was for writing, right, or something like
something
storytelling
like
or something.
So on 2016, Taylor Swift won for 1989, and To Pimp a Butterfly was nominated. Mm-hmm. It goes Sonic Color, Alabama Shakes, Taylor Swift 1989, that eventually won, Traveler by Chris Stapleton, and Beauty Behind the Madness.
How the fuck was that album? Whatever, it's the Grammys.
It's the Grammys, but that is probably Weeknd's best retail album. Though.
True, that's a good point. I actually agree with that.
I actually like Beauty Behind the Madness. I'm not really a Weeknd fan. I think
neither am I. Yeah,
I think he makes great hits. I just don't. I can't sit down and listen to a Weeknd album. It's like 6 of them are going to be good, and then the other 12 are going to be whack. But I would probably out of all those go Sound and Color.
By Alabama Shakes?
Yeah, I'd probably go Sound and Color. Yeah.
I don't dislike Alabama Shakes. I actually think they're really good. But like, I mean, to me, it's like I love Tame Impala, right? But like, right. I don't expect Tame Impala to win like a ton of awards because like Kevin Parker will admit this, like he's not the most unique musician on earth. Like he pulls from a lot of old sounds. Like not that I mean most
for like a couple of stuff they did though.
What's that? Oh no, yeah, no disrespect. That's one of my favorite musicians. But like, what I'm trying to say is here, like, I usually think that those awards are reserved for people that are trying something like completely new and fresh. I would think in theory, you know what I mean? And like Alabama Shakes is another one of those like revitalization bands. And I really like their stuff and I really like Tame Impala stuff, but like, I don't expect them to win awards for like groundbreaking shit because to be honest, they're kind of rehashing some old sounds in a very good way, in a very like new way. And I think it's cool. I mean, all art is that. So let's be honest. Like,
at this point, there was nothing that you were doing that is original, right?
Yeah. I mean, you said like, you know, Kendrick's not the first person to make an experimental jazz rap album. The Roots did it. Common did it. Like, you know, so my final thought on Damn is like, I've said it before, like 10 of the same 14 flows. Like I'm used to getting that Kendrick where you're getting a new Kendrick on every song and you're getting like this and that. It probably is his most cohesive. It's definitely his most commercially successful. I would consider it like this. Section 80, and I think this is why I love Kendrick so much, is that he has an album I can show to, like, if I have friends that don't really like hip-hop, I can show them Damn. If I have friends who don't really like hip-hop, but they like jazz, I can show them To Pimp a Butterfly. If I have friends who really like hip-hop, I can show them fucking, like, contemporary hip-hop, I can show them Good Kid, Mad City. If I have friends, like, my girlfriend, when we first started dating, didn't really like contemporary hip-hop. She does now, but at the time, she really liked old-school hip-hop, so I showed her Section 80, and she loved it. So, like, Kendrick has entry points for almost every fan of music, and I think that his wide appeal is like why I would consider Damn a commercial classic. I would consider the middle two like straight up classics, and then I would consider the original Section 80 like an underground classic before he got like quite to the point where he is. Like I think he has two
respect.
I think he has two solid classics, and then two like depending on who you talk to could be a classic.
I would say it's early, but
you don't think Good Kid? You would say Damn's a classic, right?
I would say Damn is a classic.
Good Kid, Mad City. The first
no. Okay, we'll give it to Good Kid, Mad City.
Okay, so you say 2. Yeah, I'll say 3. I'll split the difference.
You'll say 3. I say 2. Yeah, we'll give it to Good Kid, Mad City.
Okay, so at the end of the day, I think he's still got a lot to go, which is kind of hard to believe.
Got a lot, yeah. I think before I talk about him in the best, in terms of the best rappers like in history, he's got a long way to go. He might be the best of this generation so far, in terms of just album making, in terms of just rapping. But I do think there are people currently who have made their best stuff is better than things that he's done. So
that's fair.
I give you all right, so. Like, I think Still Brazy is probably better than anything he's done. I would say Still Brazy is probably better than anything he's done. I would probably say the same thing about like Teflon Don, maybe. That's Ross, and maybe him and Ross aren't really in the same type of like era, kind of. Not really, because Ross really came out in like 2006. But I would say that I would much rather listen to a guy like Ross than Kendrick. Yeah. So I don't want to say that he is the best ever, or even the best of this generation so far, but he is doing very well, and he's doing really great stuff.
I think since Kendrick's come out, the only person who has put on albums that I would consider on the same level as him, this is in my personal opinion, consistently is Kanye. Just because My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus have come out since.
Oh yeah, but
he's not of this generation, but he was still making classic music
like
when Kendrick was out.
The problem is like Pablo's like kind of like shaky and like
it's mid, yeah, it's pretty mid, and then
like Kendrick blows that out of the water, yeah.
True, but also let's see where Kendrick is 15 years into his career.
That is true. That's fair. Like we'll see like where he is 15 years and if he's still relevant. I think he will be because like if you're
he's surpassed good, like yeah,
right. He surpassed all like general like wisdom of like careers. If you're this acclaimed so far, there's no way people are just going to forget about you 15 years later. You know what
Absolutely. I mean? Yeah. I mean, I really think that he's going to be around for a long time. And I hope
he's going on a run right now. I don't think it's as good as Jay's run from, I think Jay had a run from, Jay went Doubt, Volume 1, Volume 2, which I don't really like that much, but Volume 3 I love, and then Dynasty. That's like a 5 run. I think that's incredible. And then
didn't he have Blueprint right after Dynasty?
Then he had Blueprint, yeah. So you go 6th, then you have Blueprint.
If you want to talk about commercial classics, like
yeah, I mean Blueprint's incredible. And then you got Ice Cube went America, Death Certificate, Predator.
Yeah, and people forget how fucking big Ice Cube was too.
Oh, Ice Cube was the appetizer, the entree, and the dessert. I mean, he was seriously, and people were afraid of him. Like he would rap, and like, you need to take this guy off the radio. He's going to riot. People are going to riot. Listen to this shit.
Yeah, like, you want to talk about someone who really paved the way.
Yeah, everyone is attempting to like be like Ice Cube. You know what I mean? Like, watch your little Ice Cube movies. The Ice Cube I know was out here rapping about like killing cops. I think the Ice Cube I know was talking about I'm killing Uncle Sam. Like that's my guy. Watch Army there yet. Yeah.
We've been talking for we've been talking for a while. So I think we should probably, for the listener's sake, wrap this podcast up. It was I had enjoyed it a lot. One. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I love talking about Kendrick Lamar. If you guys are still listening, you're fantastic. I love you. Follow us on Twitter
if you Kendrick fans hate me and want to complain,
you can tweet at Jason Buford, Jason with a Y.
Yeah, tweet at me.
And also just follow us on Twitter at 808s and Bars. Please just give us a good rating on iTunes. That's all I'm asking for.
Even if you hate us, just give us a good rating.
Or give us a bad rating and write a funny review at least.
I like those a lot, actually.
Yeah. We have 11 reviews so far. I'm hoping to get more. We're building a little bit of traction, and I really, really appreciate anyone who continues to listen to us. And thanks for listening. And that's all I have to say. Anything you want to say, Jason?
Nope. Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate it.
Sounds good. Peace.